Hey, so a quick refresher on the OSI layers 1 through 3. One, we were just talking about just the data, just the bits going, the ones and zeros going back and forth across computers. Then we talked about layer 2, adding MAC addresses essentially, so you know where the source and destination of the data that you're sending. And then finally, we added routers so that we can combine different networks, different LANs together, right? But one thing I'm wondering about is my computer sends more than one message or stream of data at a time, right? I could be streaming something and I could be messaging people. So how does my computer then know where in the computer it needs to send that data, right? Like which application did it go to and who does it belong to?
Right. So you really want everything, right? You want your Amazon package delivered to your bedroom. You don't even want like delivered at your front door isn't good enough, right? And this is the idea as we move up the chart here is like, wow, our computers are quite complex and they need to be running a lot of different services simultaneously. And so what our computers allow us to do is divide our computer into ports, this idea of network ports. And these ports allow us to basically say, all right, this random number, maybe 80, 100, 1,000, 30,000, whatever it might be, is going to be the destination or source port. And so when we make a request across the internet, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to say, hey, not only am I saying the MAC address that this is coming from, the MAC address that it's going to, the source IP address that I'm getting this from, the destination IP address that it's going to, but I'm also going to specify now, right, at layer 4, what port we want the information to come from, which room in our house, if you will, right? And then which room in our destination house, the house that we're sending our package to, do we want it to be delivered to? So this is one piece of information that we're going to add as we move up this chain, right? Layer 3 wasn't concerned about like subdivisions of our houses. It was just sort of the highway to get things to and from our house. Now we're talking about how do things work inside of our house. Okay. And layer 4 gets even more complicated than this, right? We have other concerns. Now we're dealing with higher quality, higher level data. We want to say other concerns. So maybe it's important for us to send data very quickly. Maybe our concern is we want to send data very quickly. We don't really care how you get it there. We don't care if you lose things along the way, but get it there as fast as you can. If we send, a very important message, right, a very important message to someone, and that message has a lot of repetition in it, and it doesn't have a lot of if we lose a couple of words or letters along the way, it doesn't really matter. We need to get it there as fast as we can. That's sort of the idea behind this protocol called UDP. Right, and we're going to talk about two of them, UDP and TCP, and that's two of the main protocols we're going to talk about here. UDP is this protocol at this transport layer, so again above that IP layer, that allows us to specify a source port, a destination port, and says get data as quickly as you can to the other end. I don't care if you lose data along the way. I don't care what happens. This is great for things like streaming, right? Things that are like massive amounts of data, games where we can send lots of data per unit second where to keep people up to date, right? Additionally, other things even higher than the UDP layer, then above the transport layer, would then need to be responsible for dealing with things like making sure that we don't lose any particular data along the way, right? So now we're at the level where we're talking about lots of data being sent. So much data that like per unit second, there is a limit of how much data that we could actually send. So a lot of times when we're talking about sending data over IP or sending data over TCP or UDP, right, this layer 4, we talk about breaking up that data into really small pieces, right, little packets of data, if you will, right? We call it packets. And so these packets of data need all the information that is standardized. Where am I coming from? Where am I going to, right? Imagine taking a package and just, you have a IKEA set that you want to send me, right? And so instead of sending me the whole set, you send me piece by piece by piece by piece by piece, right? And so that package would be, if you sent it piece by piece by piece by piece, it would be my job to reassemble it on the other side, right? With UDP, you don't care if you lose any of those pieces along the way, right? You just send me all of those pieces, and if they get there, they get there. It's like not getting your receipt from the post office, you know what I'm saying? And TCP would be different, right? So TCP is reliable, right? TCP is guarantees. It's sort of like having some extremely high quality paid service that says, hey, I'm going to make sure that the data going out goes out in a particular order, it's received in a particular order. Oh, this is the IP, if you're building that IKEA set or whatever, oh, let's build the base and then let's build the next thing and the next thing. So let's make sure it's shipped that way and received that way. TCP will even hold off and pause transmission and try to retransmit data if things are lost. Oh, if we lost a piece of that set along the way, go ahead and resend that thing. So those are some differences between UDP and TCP. And we're going to talk more about this in this particular unit, right? Neither of these are better or worse, right? Over the internet, we tend to use TCP more often, but UDP certainly has its advantages as well. So we are talking about here the transport layer. We're not talking about the content within that particular. We're not even talking about the IKEA set that's being sent. We're talking about how are we actually going to be packaging things up now? Where are we shipping things from in our computer? Where are we shipping things to in our destination computer, right? And what is the form of transport that we're sending it over? Is it reliable, right? We want to make sure that everything gets there in the right order and is used in the right way, or is it unreliable? But I mean, is there any reason why then we would ever go for unreliable?
Well, the speed, right?
Yeah.
The speed.
Right?
I mean, we've all been on voice over IP and have had some dropped frames, can you hear me now? And we can't hear them anymore. They're gone.
Right, exactly.
So, I guess that's when you'd use UDP. And it doesn't matter if we lose them for a second because we just need to keep streaming that data.
Right. So that's the big thing here, right? Is the overhead of TCP is much larger. To be able to break everything into smaller packets that need to be maintained and held in a particular order and retransmit things that are lost, that's an expensive process, right? And expensive not monetarily, but expensive infrastructure-wise, right? It takes up a lot of time and energy. And so even though things are moving at near light speed here, we got no time, right? We got to get out of here. So that's the idea here between TCP and UDP. And now we've covered sort of the first 4 layers of our OSI model. And hopefully that's cleared things up as we dive into this next series on TCP and UDP.
All right.